so few. You can't ban out the Yuumi and the Aphelios. I don't know. The thing is that Zeri kind of almost counts as a Yuumi ban as well. But taking the Nico up here as well, I feel like that should have been, with all the bans on the table, I feel like that should have been the Aphelios first pick. We've mentioned it. It's been so important to both teams.
And immediately it's going to get locked in. I will say the Nico was instrumental in game number 1. Scout looked incredible on that Nico, but he's happy to take the Ahri alongside that Aphelios. I feel like you need to maybe take away the Lulu here, but then Xioalaohu is open.
The Xioalaohu, Lucian Nami. Yeah, you have a couple of prime duos, and putting them together on 2-3 on blue side has typically been a good way to walk into your second bans, because you normally want to lock a bot lane together if at all possible in your first couple of picks. Doing it on 2-3 is just the most succinct way to do it, especially since you've already got your first pick priority out of the way. Now you have the question from LNG. Okay, you have the Aphelios. Are you setting your bot lane up for success, locking in something like something more lane dominant? Something like that Nautilus has been typically fairly good with the Aphelios as well. Or are you going to leave that for later on? It feels like LNG, they have looked at the theme from the first 2 games and said, okay, bot lane is set up for success. That has been the calling card. They lock in their support. It means that jungles are going to get hit hard into the second round, but bot lanes are all tooled up for success.
I'm just glad we don't have any enchanters in the bottom lane. Nautilus versus Rakan. This is a man's bottom lane. Jojo and Hung as well, both supports that built their reputation on going in. Jojo built his reputation on Rakan. Hung built his reputation on Nautilus. I feel like for this bottom lane, when it's such an important bottom lane for the series, I couldn't be happier with what's been locked in our TV2. So excited for what happens in the bottom lane. But we're looking towards the jungle when it comes to these bans. Nocturne taken off the board. Wukong, the answer. We'll see if LNG keep on that route.
Wonder if Tarzan could go back to something like that. Viego go for a double reset comp between the Ahri Viego. We saw that an awful lot in spring last year. Of course, Kha'Zix also on the table. You have, of course, some ability to play through Fog of War again through your engage options on the side of LNG. They did that in game 1, which is why we're mentioning that right now. I think Kha'Zix is pretty high priority right here. You've got Nico on one side, the Rakan on one side. They want to be flying out of Fog of War. You've got the Nautilus on the other side. And again, that's why the Kha'Zix just banned away. You don't want to have the Umbral Glaive wielding champion in the jungle.
I feel like Maokai is also just being completely ignored this draft.
That's very true.
It was banned in game number 1 of the series, but it seems to have fallen to the wayside here as Tarzan wants to go with the carry once again. With that Viego that we saw in game number 2. Didn't really work out for him in the squad, but happy to try and run that one back. And Maokai we mentioned, now hovered by FPX.
Okay, so Viego, Ahri, double reset champions. You have that for the passive Viego, and of course the ultimate coming in from the Ahri as well. FPX, I think one of the reasons why the Maokai is not being instantly locked in is because it's more of a responsive champion, and it can take a little while to come online. FPX, they did great in game number 2 to just about hang in the game. But LNG in the early game have looked a lot more cohesive. They've looked very faster moving across the map. If you lock in that Maokai, maybe you rob yourself of the tools to fight early and keep yourself on an even keel so you can team fight later.
We'll see what they're going to go for. The jungle roll. Xin Zhao locked in for Hacker. It's something we've seen Hacker play a fair bit over the years. It's a pick that he's always been willing to reach to, should the time be needed. I mean, back in 2022, it was his second most played. Across 2022, he played 26 games of Lee Sin and 22 games of Xin Zhao. His next most played was Viego with 9. So it's not like he's a stranger to the Xin Zhao. He's certainly proficient on the champion, but hey, I'm excited to see it. It's a while since I've seen a Xin Zhao jungle.
I think we saw, did we see like one at MSI? I'm trying to remember. It's popped up
you see like little splashes of it, don't you?
I think we had that one year where we had, well, we talked about Yuumi in the last game, right? But we had Xin Zhao Yuumi as just one of the most disgusting combos in League of Legends.
It was just after the rework, wasn't it? When
yes, it was.
Gave him the posh duel.
And it was just so disgusting.
Actually, I don't think it was his ult that was changed. I think maybe his ult was...
No, I think it was... So his W changed quite significantly. Like the sweep and slash, the wind becomes lightning. That was very different. I remember he used to just kind of one-shot you in one go. He used to be more of an assassin than he can... Oh, he still kind of does that right now. Level 2, don't get me wrong.
That
but it was
like
even more bursty. Of course, they added like the extended dash range to his E if you hit the W. That was one of the big things, which adds a bit more skill expression to his kit. But either way, this champion's cropping up once again. Early power, level 2, level 3, very, very effective. Comboing up with the rest of his team, with the Rakan, with the Nico, to help him stick to his targets. Could be very important in this early game.
I remember what his old was. It was still the big swing around, but it was just big damage on the swing around and the knockback. It didn't have the shield defense afterwards. That was it. Either way, enough about Xin Zhao. Well, actually, no, not enough about Xin Zhao, because we're jumping into a game with Xin Zhao. He's up against Viego, and we'll see if Hacker can find that early game presence. We know him as Ultraman. For the first 10 minutes, he is unstoppable. Whether or not that'll be the case today, and whether or not he powers down beyond that will be the question.
On the other side, Tarzan will be looking to cancel that particular airing of that show. Put Hacker into the dirt if he possibly can. Viego, Tarzan's had some good couple of early games with this champion over time as well. Tarzan, just in general, very proficient early game pather. LNG, a very proficient early game team. Even when they were struggling in some points in early spring, LNG would find ways to piece together very... We see this a lot. I love this gentleman's agreement in the top side, down in the river. That's going to be about as quiet as it gets there for the top lane, though. These two, it's Gragas versus Sion, folks. Like, these two are just going to sit there vibing most of laning phase.
They're going to be hitting each other in the face constantly to get those grass procs, but realistically, the kill threat is essentially 0 up there. Down in the bottom lane, though, not the case at all, as that ain't no Xia. The Rakan versus Nautilus, it feels like there is always potential kill threat. With the right hook, with the right knock-up, you can always make things happen down there.
You can. Level 1 fruit coming in from Hung. Of course, Aphelios not the best champion at level 1. You don't have any abilities, just switching between your 2 weapons. Level 2 is where things really come to play. Nautilus helps you perform at level 1, keeps you on the wave. Aphelios really needs to be on the wave to get through that ammunition, keep that healing from the Severin going up. So Rakan, though, will want to contest for this level 2. All-ins typically come quite early in this duo.
I will say as well, Aphelios, despite no abilities at level 1, just having the green and red guns, like your general laning in terms of just sticking in lane and being able to harass is exceptionally good. Just, you outrange everyone, you have healing in your kit from level 1. It is pretty obnoxious to have to deal with. Level 2 spike not going to be punished, as Hung goes slightly wide on the hook there. Tarzan wants to make something happen in the mid lane. Care moves back up.
Charm flash potential. Not sure there's a W here. There it lands.
Oh, great little charm actually coming out. And Care going to be slowed by the red buff. He's flashed into the wrong side of the map. And this is going to be first blood. Care turns invisible, but it's not going to matter. Tarzan finds maybe the easiest first blood of his life.
I think he was trying to get towards the blast cone and do something tricksy, but there's no one coming for him for help there. His bot lane is shoved in, the early level 2 hit by Gala and Hung. Hacker is nowhere nearby. Bit of a wasted flash, all things said and done.
Yeah, really unfortunate for Care. Not ready for that play, and the flash the wrong way. Just not it, unfortunately. Gets caught out, gets taken out. And now Scout with an advantage in the mid lane, but also Viego, an early kill. That's fantastic.
Especially with Tarzan being such a proficient player of the champion too. Despite not winning that last game, mechanically, Tarzan was really on point. We got an all-in the picture-in-picture though, but 2v2 fizzle out. And this is basically what we said before, right? You have the early reset combo of Ahri Viego, very powerful into the mid-game, but they have a lot of early gank pressure as well. Early pressure in lane from Ahri with a electrocute, with the W, consistent trading. And now Hacker has his first run at the map in topside.
Here's the attempt. Zika, flash available. Xioalaohu doing everything he can to body block. Hacker will move in. Zika flashes, and that's all you're going to get out of that one. Certainly not in a position to try and dive a Sion yet.
Hacker using that red buff power spike of Xin Zhao. They're both early game champions, which are really good with that red buff. Knockup comes in from Chocho. He'll be able to disengage just fine here. Tarzan not able to find anything at bot side.
Not just yet. An attempt there from LNG, but Tarzan walking over the ward you can see in the river brush will mean that FPX know to play this one safe, keep themselves alive for the time being. Cat continuing to play pretty aggressive positioning in this lane. He knew that Tarzan was on the bottom side, so trying to put as much pressure out as he can. Scout going to stay relatively even, but is falling behind in CS a bit.
He is. Had to teleport back to lane a little later than Care, which of course, Care died. Didn't help in regards to that. Care trying to block out a skill shot with his clone, not able to do so. Scout able to at least kind of keep even-ish, and of course, with that assist, gonna still pick up some extra gold. Of course, has the Dark Seal in inventory as well now as well. That's your early game done. You get that Dark Seal for the RE. You can start snowballing alongside your Viego, giving yourself more damage than you had on the Gragas last game, potentially.
And you do have to sort of keep in mind here in the mid lane that this Nico was the first pick. This was the reason FPX didn't go for the Aphelios, was to get care on the Nico. So we need to see an advantage. We need to see care making things happen. Looking towards his ultimates later in the game as Scry's Bloom will just about spot out Hacker. We need to see care having a big impact. So especially post 6, look towards that Nico and what it can achieve in the game. But Hacker on a ward here. Tarzan will comfortably start this Drake off, despite the fact that Gala wasn't even in lane.
LNG showing once again really good early movements between Tarzan, Scout, and Hung. Get that gank off in mid lane, get vision deep into the enemy jungle, get themselves this first dragon. It's all very seamless, it fits together very well. LNG's early game, one of the most clean in the LPL right now.
Really good stuff. The map movement, fantastic. FPX managed to match them in the previous game though. They managed to keep themselves even across the map. See if they can bring some of that once again. Both games in the series, FPX were the ones to get the first Herald. So looking towards that in a minute and a half's time to see if they can keep that trend alive.
While that's happening though, particularly when you go towards that Herald, you need to question what happens with these AD carries. Because of course, if Gala is sat in bot side, level 6, has chakrams running, and potentially able to push in waves into that turret, that can be a lot of gold over to this Aphelios, which has determined a lot of these games in these series so far. So when it comes around to the 8-minute mark, look especially for how these AD carries are positioning on the map.
See how they're going to be able to do. I'm looking towards the Xia as well for LWX. Like, this was back when he won Worlds. Xia, Kai'Sa, big champions in the meta. It's not a real recall. He will just keep vision. Drop that ward as well.
It just messes with my head soon. Every time I see it, I'm like, wow, surely there's someone just recalling to get vision. Level 6 hit though by Gala on boss side.
Nice feathers though. Denies Hung finding anything at all. Very nicely played by LWX. But yeah, looking towards the Xia later on in the game, I'm excited for those team fights. I'm excited to see what LWX can do. He's in form right now, it feels like. Some of these team fights have been beautiful from him in this series. We'll see if he can make that happen on the Xia once more. Some plates going his way though, so nice little start here in the bottom side for FPX.
Of course, on the other side though, Gala has himself that cull that'll be ticking up. Of course, LWX didn't feel like he could do the same. He went towards the longsword earlier in the refillable, or rather the pots just in general. Care is a minion. He's not going to be able to get anything in this mid lane just yet. Again, that's another thing which we're going to have to continually do. Count those minions. Hook comes in again, but hits the wall!
Oh no, the feathers have to be flashed away from as well, but he didn't actually pull them back yet. Moonlight Vigil comes in. Oh, with that many chakrams, you know that they've just got to leg it at that point. A billion bonus autos every single time. And we talked about FPX getting the first Heralds. They do it again.
They do it again. LNG are trying to cross map towards bot side. They're trying to use the chakrams to get themselves plates before the Herald can be put down anywhere important. But Hacker gets the right timing. He gets that Herald, gets to walk back towards this bot side. And LNG, they don't get anything for staying bot side while that Herald goes down.
Yeah, unable to make the play happen. Gala trying to turn it into something with his ultimate, but wasn't really able to find his targets. And the feathers from LWX were just perfect, right? Forcing the flash out from Hung without even pulling them back. Really well played by him to just follow up on the initial from Chocho and be just it's so difficult to engage on. I feel like that's the reputation that Aphelios has these days, but Xia's like the original. She did that first.
Oh, very much so. The self-peel doesn't really get higher than a Xia ultimate. Of course, Aphelios, his peel is making sure you're dead before you reach him. It's a little bit different. Depends how far ahead of the game he is. If he's very fed, you never really get to reach him unless you're very good at choosing your angles. Xia a bit more consistent with her ability to keep herself safe regardless of the state in which the game is in. Gala pushing up towards that bot side again, has himself those chakrams, which are very good at damaging that turret, but not able to get any plates so far, as opposed to the couple which have been picked up across the map from FPX. Just the one on that bot side, but of course that Herald will be able to add more to that number.
player picked up. LWX. 1-0 as we broach the 10-minute mark here. Teleports now online. Remember, we were talking about care on this Nico. With the teleport, well, his teleport's actually on cooldown, but with Unleashed teleport available, you can anticipate some of those flanking plays from him. That's what we look towards Scout for in game number 1 of this series. Like, absolutely magnificent flanks on the Nico. Hoping to see that from Care here in game number 3 as well.
Root hits onto Scout, gets a little bit of damage, because Merc Tread's already built up for the Ahri, though. Does very much of impact this matchup. Nico has really long CC if you get that Tangle Barb in the right kind of place. Merc Treads very much help you survive in that matchup, and it means that Ahri can also answer the Nico a little bit later into the game. Not able to answer right now, though. Care gets the first roam towards bot lane. If anything were to happen under this tower, as it stands out, just plates going from that Herald over to the inventory of LWX.
The top laners at this point have decided Grasp is not important for them to proc. They're both going well beyond the turrets to farm.
They're going on an exchange program. They're experiencing each other's side of the rifts, like different culture. They've like settled in with a family, you know, just around the inner turret. They're learning the language of the blue side and the red side of the rift. It's a lovely cultural experience.
It certainly is. It's great to see cooperation between the two teams in a way that we've not really seen before. You know, they're dancing in the river at level 1, now swapping sides of the map. It really is something to behold. FPX though, fantastic start to this one. Not only did they get that Herald before, they now get themselves the Drake as well. They got the plates to the bottom side with the Herald. Like, everything's looking pretty peachy for FPX.
All I can think of is, you know, in Finding Nemo, you have Bruce the Shark with his wonderful Australian accent. It's like, fish are friends, not food. I'd like to apply that to top laners right now. Tanks are friends, not food. At the end of the day, why must we hurt each other? We're not going to kill each other anyway. There's nothing to be gained there. Have yourselves a peaceful confrontation across the ring.
And I will say, even if you do see top laners as food, which I'm sure many League of Legends players do,
yes.
In this matchup, you ain't getting any of that food anyway. Even if you're trying for the solo kills, it's not going to happen. So I think the better way to approach the top lane. However, LNG are now opting out. Gala's moved up towards that top side of the map here. And we'll be looking for some plates of his own. The Infernum there. And FPX a little slower on this play. Their Gragas still up in the top side. So this should be a window for Gala. Get some gold. But that said, Hack is in the top side of the map. And actually LWX has moved up as well. So won't be able to find anything for Gala.
I think because FPX had just got so much vision control just down on that bot side of the map, I think Gala and Hung moved towards that top side just to move FPX away from some of their deep vision. Of course, they got vision on both sides of the map. It's kind of a bit of a muchness in regards to that. But LNG at least trying to catch FPX off guard, trying to get Gala onto one of these turrets finally. Has himself his first item. Of course, that Storm Razor talks about how much burst that gives you. LNG, once again, though, held to account, held even in this early game, despite that being one of the things we praise most about this team.
Look at this fight between the top laners. Absolutely nothing. Just grass procs. Like, neither of them even going below really 2/3 of their health. Just punching each other in the face outright. And nothing else top lane. I was looking at the minimap while the top lane fight kicked off, and there was like 3 people on it. I thought it was going to clip, but both teams kind of opting out, and I think essentially we're seeing both teams say, look, we're playing for the game, we're playing to scale into the team fights, etc., etc. And so for the time being, nothing too significant going to be hitting our screens. It is going to be a game of scaling.
We have second Herald. Sorry. Second Herald is the one thing coming second. There are teleports available. I'm wondering if that's where things kick off, so just want to quickly put that on everyone's radar.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. Especially for the side of FPX where, you know, we've been talking about scaling. Diego is definitely going to scale better than the Xin Zhao does.
You're on vision there, buddy. You're on vision there, buddy.
That is not the scaling I've been talking about. He's scaling towards his side of the map right now as Jojo gets a double quickness. Tarzan's going to go down. And FPX find themselves a pick pretty much for free.
I mean, LNG, they move their bot lane towards that top side. They try and get some vision control. They put down control wards in the river to try and make sure that this second Herald doesn't go over to FPX. But they don't manage to achieve it because Tarzan, he misses one of those wards. He gets caught out, and finally, Hacker's Xioalaohu gets onto the board. This early game champion has not really managed to get involved in all too much. FPX with that second Herald will need to make themselves a power play to keep themselves at least alive on that top side of the map. Xioalaohu does fall off as the game goes on.
Yeah, he certainly does. But Hacker getting another Herald for himself. And honestly, I feel like the story of both Game 2 of this series and now Game 3 is vision control. FPX doing it once again, just always knowing where Tarzan is.
It's not like LNG didn't try at this point. They, of course, had themselves the control wards in the river. They had 3 sweepers. They have 4 sweepers in inventory. They understand the need to clear this vision. They just miss one in the net at that point. And suddenly FPX, they're winning that one neutral objective. There's a dragon up in a minute as well. Kez pushing in this bot side to put that one into a good state for them. FPX, credit to them again. This is a team which probably came in today viewed as a little bit of those underdogs, because LNG, a team with a lot of big names and a lot of big performances from Spring. But FPX really throwing punches out at LNG.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't even say little bit of underdogs. I was saying fully this should be a 2-0 for LNG. Like, I didn't really think that this was going to be close at all, which I was very wrong. Based on what we're seeing here today, LNG really being taken for a ride, and FPX showing that they cannot just be underestimated like I underestimated them today. I'm not going to pretend I didn't. Like, coming in, I was fully on the board that this was going to be a quick old series, but Tarzan kind of being shown up a little bit, getting caught out on that ward. The one thing I will say is, LNG, when they do make a play, they do look good on it. If last game Gala hadn't been going a little bit too far forwards, I think that really could have been a game for them.
I was wondering what was happening with that Gragas. They're really positioned quite effectively here. Looking to put down this second.
That's a high value clone.
Wow, crazy. Get so much out of that. Dragon briefly started by LNG. FPX using Herald as a counterweight in this mid lane, drawing the attention of that was a Hex Flash or a Flash? That's a Hex Flash,
I'm going to say
right?
Hex Flash, yeah.
I wasn't looking at him. I heard the sound effect. I was like, hang on a second. Anyway, Chocho still has himself that ult, positioning himself for an engage. Scout gets the charm.
Charm on Xioalaohu, he dashes out though. Zika blocking the Nico damage with his shield. We're getting a whole lot of nothing. We're staring at each other. We're throwing some skill shots, but it's kind of just the tank soaking it all up. And it looks like it will be FPX winning mid-priority here. They'll be able to crash that wave in. Another charm lands. Xioalaohu taking some more damage as Hacker pushes in. And I think FPX might wrestle control here, but no, Zika is not giving it up. Despite Gala being in the mid lane right now, they're not giving up just yet as Hacker takes another charm. Scout is on point with these charms.
FPX, they use the second Herald to try and get themselves positioned around Dragon. They don't get anything for it. LNG feels like they managed to pull a bit of a fast one with this. FPX take the foot off the trigger just a little bit. Both teams afraid of the pick CC, but neither one finding an engage.
I'm just surprised FPX didn't want the 4v5 fight. Well, Gala was
Here we
in the
go.
mid lane. Xioalaohu goes on in, hung the target as he flashes out to safety, and Scout alongside Gala here. The carries are there, but Care jumps on top of everybody. That's the Nico we were looking for. That's the B1 pick we've all heard about. Tarzan potentially looking for a re-engage here, but we'll have to back away in the end. It's 1-0 in favor of FPX in trade for that Drake.
They also get themselves that mid lane outer turret. Very important, that one, particularly because we've been playing such a slow, measured game. And we talked about how important vision control has been to set up the next big play. FPX taking that mid lane outer turret might be the most important thing out of this entirety of this trade. They put down that second Herald. It takes them a little while to find themselves an engage. They take down that tower first, and they manage to fight around the choke point. LNG, it felt like they've been given a bit of a free pass around that Dragon, but then they kind of just blindly walk into this choke point. Even with the Aphelios and his damage at this point in the game, not able to stand up to the Xia Feathers, and of course that Care ultimate.
Yeah, Care manages to find his way in. Beautiful Pop Blossom. And a beautiful fight for FPX. It's a little sad that they don't get more than one kill there. Like, it felt like that was going to turn into more when Care got to all three of them. Chocho just shy. Scout with some real fancy footwork there.
Blows the ultimate, but he does have, of course, second rank in that Spirit Rush because he's at level 12 now. He's going to use the last charge to find a pick.
Yeah, the target is Pop Blossom going to come out to answer. Tarzan flashes away though, keeps himself alive. And here comes Zika to get on to Chocho and Care. The damage is there, but they can't quite finish the kill. Xioalaohu zoning the rest of the squad as Zika tries to walk away. Hung as well, abandoned by the squad, and he's the one to go down once again.
LNG, they're just getting picked apart, but they're looking for this vision control. Caught out a bit in River, scouts the first one. They try and make something of the blown ultimate with the last few charges. But FPX, now they have control over this top side. Baron is spawned. They're going to take a turret. FPX, once again, catching LNG sleeping. And this could be a big win. This could be what sees them into a significant lead in this deciding game.
I mean, to be honest, that wasn't even FPX catching them sleeping. That was LNG starting the fight and just outright losing it. Like, that was Scout going forward for a pick onto Care. And the rest just sort of plays out with FPX finding themselves that victory.
It's just not very precise, right? Scout blew the ultimate earlier in River, and I think LNG just thought, okay, we've got to use the rest of this ult. We need to find something out of this Ahri ult before we lose that playmaking tool, particularly because Baron had just spawned, particularly because they've been losing a couple of fights in a row. But it's imprecise. It's not as coordinated as they needed to be. And FPX, they pull ahead with another phase of this game. At least LNG is starting to trade across the map again.
Gala just literally didn't even get a single auto out during that fight. Completely zoned by Xioalaohu, afraid of the cast. So just does never step forward. Care, in the meantime, gets a bit of time on the tier 2 bot, but look at Baron. LNG is just starting this one off. Okay, it's going to be checked by Hacker. He's been spotted. The Scout could look for a pick onto Hacker instead. They're going for it, dodges away from the stun, but the charm will land. Do they have the damage this time around? There's the knock onto Hung. It's Hung down once again, but LWX on the backline, knocked up by Zika. In the meantime, Gala surviving the attempt from Care. Calibrum's not enough though, and now Zika just gets turned on. LNG just can't finish anyone off, and they're punished every time. Zika tries to escape, but he's got nowhere to run.
And in the battle of these mythical beasts, the Chillin versus the Phoenix, from the ashes comes victory. FPX, they find themselves a couple of really good fights in a row, with LNG committing to some very odd fights. They see Care on the bot side of the map. He has the teleport though, and LNG, they can't pull off that Baron in time. They're looking for very split objectives. Gala is not damaging the first target. He's having to deal with Xioalaohu. He's having to deal with Care. He has to sit back. And while Zika is buying some time on the back end of this fight, the split fights are working so much better for FPX because they're the ones which have the more ability to take down that first target in these fights.
So LNG kind of left out of sorts. That really good attempt there at the end of the play from Gala to try and find LWX, but I mean, look at the scoreboard. Look at the difference between the 80 carries at this point. Gala just has no way into these plays, and LWX has all of the space in the world. And now, Baron begins on the side of FPX. And on a 50-50, you favor the team with a Xia. You can sync up with the Feathers and the Smite. I mean, the Feathers, when you've got enough stacked up, they do like 2,000 damage to the Baron. They can be absolutely insane later on in the game. It's LNG trying to pressure this mid tower. This is a weird position to be in, though. Xioalaohu dashes over the wall and actually gets himself out to safety. Very swift play from him. Zika has to walk away.
And back to the mid lane we go. Seeing a number of those ARAMs in this series so far. Dragon spawning, it is live, but neither team wants to leave that Baron unattended. That's why you got to push in this mid lane. Push in the mid lane. Stop the enemy team from responding with another objective to the other side of the map that you're focused on. Game slows down yet again, and LNG, they just need to collect themselves a little bit. They've been very incoherent with the plans that which they've been putting across, and Tarzan walking into Care. Care will see that with that clone at least.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not the real one.
Every time. You see, you get the vision. You get the vision from it. So Tarzan is seen, but that just really messes you about. They don't have the vision to make all of these plays just yet.
Oh, the charm lands? No, Scout has to get away. Uses that ultimate to keep himself alive. Xioalaohu with the cast there. Tarzan wide on the stun as here comes the pop blossom, but Care can't get onto Gala. Can he turn it around? Infernum across the team here. Dash forward from Scout. Gala's still alive here. They're all CC'd up, and LNG find their moment. This is it as Tarzan gets a double kill. And somehow Xioalaohu on the back line is still going. The wet noodle fight continues between our top laners. But Tarzan ends that where it stands. A triple for the jungler. No George of the Jungle here.
Tarzan picks up the kills, but it is Gala on this Aphelios who absolutely shreds through FPX. How could we forget about this? Aphelios hasn't had that much time to, or that much opportunity to really show off in this game, but huge damage in that fight. LWX trying to find Scout now. Not able to do so. Not FPX, they can't even take the Dragon off the back of this.
Baron taken by LNG, and I have to respect the confidence from LWX there. He wants the 1v1 with an Ari while he's half HP. You do have to respect it. This might be too much. Spirit Rush is on cooldown. Dragon's going to reset. Here comes Care from the top side of the play. Jungler's not here yet. Hacker still in the mid lane. He's on his way over as fast as possible. TP being channeled by Xioalaohu. They're moving in. Scout in the front line. Looking for those charms, but Xioalaohu steps sideways. FPX, I think they will grab this Drake for themselves. Tarzan just moving in now, though, does want to get into the pit. Are we going to see the fight, though, is just the Drake over the wall. Xioalaohu there, charmed up. This is the pick that LNG are looking for. They don't want the fight, they just want to kill instead. But Xioalaohu is so tanky. Care chased out by Scout, but look at the mid lane. Gala has the inside track with the Baron buff. This will be a tier 2 at least.
Gala chooses to stay in the mid lane in the setup to the fight, and LNG, they're pushing the towers of the Baron buff. FPX takes so long in the Dragon, LNG get positioning on the map. It's not Soul Point, it's just their second Dragon. It's one Cloud Dragon. LNG looking to break the base rather than take the objective.
Scout denying so many recalls there as well. There's no defense for that mid tower, so in-hip tower taken down. And this game has been swings and roundabouts. We've had FPX taking a pick, taking a moment, getting control for themselves, but now LNG turn that around with a fight in mid and deny so much from LNG, get the Baron, and now some towers mid.
Starts with this ARAM again. That mid lane priority becomes so important when these objectives fall very quickly, when you have the Aphelios and the Xia and the ability to shred these objectives very quickly. You need to pin people to that mid lane wave. But when you're playing stacked up and you go into the Aphelios, we haven't had a chance to see the Aphelios pop off in this game, but the damage coming through from the Infernum and the Gale Force was really, really what set up LNG for success.
I mean, he put basically the whole team of FPX on half HP. Fantastic stuff there as Tarzan finished the fight off. And you saw halfway through the fight, once everything's used and everyone's low, Gala just presses Q on Sephiroth and just runs at everyone. It's like, I don't even care who this hits. I just want to try and get some last hits now. Yeah, just charges on in. So now, Gold basically even again. And we're kind of headed towards what's happened already in this series. Game number 2 was, you know, a 45-minute slog between the two teams. It's possible this is the same, although LNG, despite the goal being, you know, pretty much in touching distance, does feel like they have control with the Baron.
They have definitely more positioning on the map. Looking at wards available, there is one ward behind LNG and a teleport on Care. There's a chance for a deep flanking play. Actually, I think that might just... There it is. Really deep in. They're really trying to go for it. That's going to be way out of vision. This is it. This is the Hail Mary. How much can they get out of this?
Care's in Narnia. Will LNG spot it out? Gala's the target here. Blascone is there, but he's spotted. Care has been found on his flank. And Tarzan's like, I don't care if you're a mid laner. I can 1v1 you, bro. Steps on up and forces Care away. And now it's Tarzan trying to find the flank. Chocho forced the flash. Care still fleeing here. Everfrost charm blocked by the Zhonyas. Cask won't find Tarzan, who has to try and escape. Hacker might go for more here, but he has to back off to join his team. But Gala's been ignored the whole time, and it means Xioalaohu goes down. LNG, they deny the play from FPX.
It was creative, but it wasn't quite decisive enough. They can't combo up with Care walking into the team. They can't time it right. LNG disengage and they find their fight. They're going to take down another tower and march back in towards the base.
Scout's charms this game have been phenomenal. Like, even though he's only 0-0-4, he's not had, like, the big pop-off Ari game. In these fights, it feels like FPX cannot move for Scout. Every time anyone tries to step up and find an engage, like Chocho, Xioalaohu, Hacker, permanently getting charmed up every time they make an attempt.
Scout was, of course, he had the most MVP player of the game counts in spring. Incredible year for him so far. And despite him taking a bit of a backseat to some other players in his roster in summer so far, you can again see the playmaking which he really showcased in spring coming alive once more. Gala gets another chance to free fire. The Aphelios has been the deciding pick in this series. And despite the fact that it has been a really low kill game, Gala, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a very high DPS again.
Yeah, I think he's going to be doing okay in these fights. I mean, that one fight in mid lane with the Infernal on everyone,
that's it, that's okay.
That's going to
your
buff his
DPM.
damage numbers, yeah. Let's talk expectations here, though, because Drake's coming up in 50 seconds. And again, gold slightly in favor of LNG, but it doesn't feel like that should be the be-all and end-all.
No, because at the end of the day, if you can't get onto your priority targets, it really doesn't matter how much gold you've got. You're looking for Nico to become a minion, maybe. We'll see how much of that the Jedi mind tricks Care can pull out. Any of the funky stuff that this champion is known for. LNG, they have themselves no flanking wards to worry about behind them. FPX haven't been able to get behind them for quite some time at this point, and with 20 seconds on the Dragon, they should be able to really put FPX in a difficult position of either giving up that Dragon or giving up a bad fight.
Certainly feels like FPX have lost control of their half of the map at this point. Only the base is safe as they have to try and face check into LNG. It is only going to be the third Drake, so I think FPX conceding this happily and saying, look, we'll just go get vision on the Baron, like you say. But Zika will not concede the mid lane. Happy to step up, try and walk forwards here, as this will be mid lane priority, bought by LNG. See Hung trying to defend the wave while the rest of the team pushes that in. Another charm. Everfrost is there, and he just ain't tanky enough. Xioalaohu taken out of the picture. That's Featherstorm burnt as well. FPX have nothing.
They got worse than nothing. Care caught just in that brush as well. Has to Protobell away. They're split. Hacker's going to pay for it.
No. It's all gone wrong for FPX. They're on the wrong side of the Baron pit. As LNG, they could go for Baron. They could also just go for the mid in. It is still wide open if they just want to send someone over there. Got the man advantage currently, though. And they're sticking for this Baron pit. Do they really want a 50-50? This Hacker's over the wall, and he's on Xin Zhao, which Xin Zhao very comfortable, can get vision of the Baron by himself, and then can gap close onto the Baron by himself. But LNG just holding it for now on 3K. They're going to try and burst it. They knew that the W was on cooldown, so Hacker can't get in. Here comes the Pop Blossom ulti 3, but Gala untouched by it and just burns them alive. It's a barbecue for Gala. Quadra kill for LNG's AD carry.
Burn them alive! The Mega Infernum Bomb dropped on their heads yet again. Area of effect used to maximum effect. Gala, he just doesn't react to these kinds of plays. He just explodes an entire team, and he's just like, another day at the office, folks.
Look, I swear, Gala, he's One Punch Man. He's Saitama. Like, not a single emotion on his face after just annihilating everyone.
He's been annihilating so many games in a row now, walking towards the Nexus.
Yep, this one's over. LNG, they made it look tough. They made it look real tough. But they do finish it off in the end. FPX doing their utmost, and I think showing that they are still a team that you've got to respect. But LNG keep themselves in the conversation towards the top of the table. Now 3-2, I believe, on the scoreboard. A much-needed win after a very tough schedule to start their split. But they do get it in the end.
Still, some good things to walk away from that game from FPX's perspective, though. I think LWX has continued to put his name into the upper echelons of LPL AD carries, despite the fact that FPX have had struggles as a team at the end of spring and now coming into summer. LWX has shown that he really can be a carry to be built around. Care, similarly, in that mid lane, doing some great playmaking on the Nico, one of the most powerful picks in the meta right now. Wasn't enough to take down